Hello there, everybody, and welcome to the entertainment headquarters, and welcome to another quick review for you. This is a film that I found on Sky Premiere. It's a film that I've been wanting to see for a while. I checked out the trailer a few months back. The trailer looked really interesting, but very familiar to another film that is from a popular franchise. And I thought to myself, you know what, I'll give this a go. It's been out a while, I believe, over in the good old US of A on digital and streaming. And I believe it's finally made its way here to the good old UK on Sky Premiere. And it's a film starring Nicolas Cage. And it is a film by the name of Arcadian. And, you know, Arcadian sounds an interesting title. You know, I was trying to figure out the meaning behind the title, but I still haven't figured it out. But it's an interesting concept, but it's not a concept that is new or refreshing. And you know, every studio, when they have a franchise that becomes quite a big success, you will always get other studios that will try and capture on that success and do a film with a similar theme, a similar vibe, and a similar focus. And I generally believe Arcadian is one of those movies and is definitely a cash grab film. And I generally understand why this movie didn't get a theatrical release. But nevertheless, it stars Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage for me has always been a fantastic actor. You know, when he's really good, he's really good. And there's other movies with, you know, if you know his personal life and you know his financial situation from the past, he has basically, you know, went out there and did certain particular movie projects for a quick paycheck. And I believe this is one of those movies that he's done for that quick paycheck. But there's another movie out there right now which I have yet to check out, but I'm dying to check out. Which I'm hearing's got amazing reviews, and Nicolas Cage apparently is phenomenal in it, and it's called Long Legs, about a serial killer. Please go out there and check it out and support it, because these lower budget, more independent movies need all the help we get, because without them, we might not even get the big budget stuff in the theatres. Theatres are struggling right now. Hollywood's struggling right now. And when we get films like the likes of Long Legs, we need to support them, because without them type of films, the likes of Deadpool and Wolverine might not even happen either. But anyway, let's get on to the plot and, you know, the information of Arcadian. So the film is directed by Benjamin Brewer. It's written by Mike Nilon. It stars Nicolas Cage, Jaeden Martell, and Maxwell Jenkins. And the director, Benjamin Brewer, I've never seen any of his films before. The film also stars in supporting role Sadie Soverall as Charlotte and Joe Dixon as Mr. Rose. And the plot synopsis of this movie, which is very similar to another movie which I will bring up throughout this review. A father and his twin teenage sons fight to survive in a remote farmhouse at the end of the world. So this film starts off with quite an interesting bang. You have a younger Nicolas Cage who you see scavenging through the ruins of a city, and he's looking for supplies, and then you find him with his two baby sons. I'm assuming the mother's been killed, and the very young infant sons, he takes them away, and as he's leaving in the distance, you see, you know, battles going on, explosions, gunfire, people shouting, screaming. You see flames in the background, and it clearly appears something horrendous or apocalyptic has happened. And it then zooms to 15 years later to Nicolas Cage and his two sons living in a rural farmhouse in the middle of nowhere with farmlands, you know, fields, trees, all that jazz surrounding them. And they're living in this farmhouse, and it's close to evening time. They're all sitting there having the evening meal. The two sons are now older, they're now teenagers, and you know, as you know, teenage sons bicker from time to time. They get into an argument and try to have a mini little fight at the dinner table, which Nicolas Cage's character soon, you know, simmers them down. So Nicolas Cage plays Paul, Jaeden Martell plays Joseph, who is the younger, I believe, of the two brothers. Now, the actor Jaeden Martell, he was in It. That's the first thing I remember from him and what I've seen him in. He starred in It, and I thought he did a fairly decent job. He is a young actor that has grown into himself, and I do believe he did a fairly good job in It, and he does an okay job in this as well. The other actor who plays the other son, Maxwell Jenkins, who plays Thomas, who's the older one, I haven't actually seen him in anything else other than this. But he plays the older son, who, you know, there is a difference between the sons. So the older son, Thomas, he is more like wants to go out and adventure the world and wants to, you know, explore and not be stuck in this rural farmhouse with his dad, Paul, and his brother, you know, stuck in the farmhouse with his brother, Joseph. But they know that there's things out there. The other brother, Joseph, he's more the intelligent brother of the two. He wants to, you know, learn things. He wants to, you know, build things. He wants to study. And the other one's the more adventurous type. He's more the smart thinking type. And obviously the dad, Paul, he simply just wants to protect his children. On that night, the farmhouse is suddenly, you know, attacked by these unknown, unseen creatures, which you hear scratching on the doors to try to break in. The older son, Thomas, and Paul are standing protecting the door, barricading the door, while Joseph is up, still sitting in the bedroom, listening and taking in the noises and everything and studying via sound, you know, how these creatures operate. And as the plot progresses, you then are introduced to another farm in the distance, which is the Rose farm with Mr. and Mrs. Rose and the daughter Charlotte, who they both kind of, you know, help each other out with supplies, tree, you know, food, all of that stuff, to try to, you know, bargain with each other or help each other. It's very much like The Walking Dead. You know, where you had the Walking Dead, where you had the different tribes and the different encampments and different, you know, strongholds and different factions. This is similar vibe to that with the two different farms. Then Joseph and the dad decide to venture out. All three of them decide to venture out. So you have Paul the dad, you've got Thomas you've got the dad, Paul, Nicolas Cage, you've got Thomas in the background, the adventurous one, and then you've got you've got Joseph there, who's driving this buggy that they've built, who's the more inquisitive, more intelligent of the two brothers. They venture out one day, and Nicolas Cage decides to have some alone time near a waterfall, smoke a cigar, while his two sons are meant to be gathering, you know, firewood to protect, you know, firewood and new logs to kind of build a barrier again within the compounds of their farmhouse. Unfortunately, Thomas, who has a crush on Charlotte, decides to venture off back to the Rose farmhouse to kind of mingle with Charlotte while Joseph is stuck doing all the work. As nighttime, falls upon them, Paul is back at the farmhouse and Joseph returns with all the supplies but without Thomas. And in the meantime, Thomas, as he's trying to get back to the farmhouse quickly, he falls down this, I guess, ravine, this big opening into like this cave, and is trapped there. And Paul ends up having to venture out on the night time to try and save him. And that's where the plot picks up. That's where, you're then introduced to more of these creatures and, hiding out in this cave. And, you see like the relationship between Paul and Thomas and Joseph and the different, scenarios with them. Unfortunately, the character of Paul Nicolas Cage is injured during this time, and they try to get help from the Rose Farm, which falls on their feet because they don't have enough medicine to help him. So they basically want him to go back to his own farm and die. And from that point on, the whole story is built up on the bond and the different, dueling personalities and relationship with the two brothers. And I'm not going to go any further with the plot because I don't want to spoil the plot for you, because there is, as the plot continues, you will see more of the creatures, you will see more of the relationships between the characters of Joseph and Thomas, and even Charlotte and her parents. But outside of that, let's talk details of this film. This film, like I've mentioned at the beginning of the review, is very much a cash grab movie, and it's easily, to see what movie it is doing the cash grab on. So first things first, way back when you had a film called Bird Box on Netflix, which became, Bird Box, that became a huge success. And as you've just seen, they did a cash grab movie. I don't know if it came out the year after or did it come out the same year. Does it have the date on the post? I know. But the year after, or a few months later, we had The Silence. Now, The Silence for me was a fairly decent film. Similar concept to The Bird Box. Similar concept actually to Arcadian, where you have these creatures that are like these winged bat monsters that just, attack. And obviously you've got these unseen monsters in Bird Box. Now we skip a year later or a few years later, and then you have a smash hit independent medium budget movie with Emily Blunt called, of course, A Quiet Place. Now, The Quiet Place for me was full of atmosphere, full of intense moments. You were on the edge of your seat. It had a great plot with family, a father trying to protect his pregnant wife and his two other children after losing their youngest child. And it was just a great story and all, featuring, the family elements, the survival element, and as well as the intense atmospheric, edgy-ish seat moments. Now we get Arcadian, which is definitely trying to follow the footsteps of that movie in terms of plot, with the father trying to protect two children. But unfortunately, it falls on deaf's ear because there is no intenseness in this. There's no atmospheric moments. There's no edgy seat moments. It very much is it's a film that is very much, it skips all of the things that it could have made this movie great. There was no atmosphere. There was no intense moments. There's no edgy seat moment. It was quite a bland, boring watch, if I'm truly honest. Where I cared for the characters in A Quiet Place, I really had no emotional attachment with the characters in Arcadian. Nicolas Cage, like I say, he's a fine actor, and there's films where he works and he puts that performance in that you really are just drawn to them. In this, it was a very bland performance, and I genuinely believe it was just like I said, this is a cash grab movie. Not only is it a cash grab for the studio that produced this movie, that are trying to capture, the success of A Quiet Place, but it's also a cash grab movie for Nicolas Cage. The two, other leading actors, the two, male stars, the younger teenage stars, I believe, they did, what was written on the page and they tried to deliver it on screen. The character I really gelled with the most, so I do think is a shining light in this movie, is the actor Jaeden Martell, who played Joseph. I really enjoyed his character more than the character of Thomas. I loved that Joseph was attempting to study these monsters and is trying to understand them and understand how the way they think. And, there is some, shining moments with the monsters where you see them burrowing under the house, where you see them attack and the way they attack. And, they are inspired by a number of things, I believe. But the one thing I will say about the monsters is they are not scary in the slightest. I actually at one point chuckled when I looked at the monster, and that is the thing that could have been the saving grace for this very bland, boring movie, is that if they had turned the monsters into something frightening and into something that you feared. But unfortunately, that is the mistake that they made, because let's look at the monster from A Quiet Place. Now, the monster from A Quiet Place, it's a mixture of, many things. For me, this is a mixture of the monster from Cloverfield, the Demogorgon from what you call it, my mind's went blank, you know what I mean, the Demogorgon from that hit show, Stranger Things. My mind went blank for a minute. From Stranger Things, that's what this looks like. It looks like a mixture of the monster from Cloverfield, Stranger Things, and other things. And it's fast pacing, it looks terrifying, and when it comes for you, you're in fear. The thing with the monster in Arcadian is that its inspiration makes you chuckle all the more. Its inspiration for this monster in particular is Goofy. That's right. The creators of this movie were inspired by Goofy, and I guess they wanted to make a horror version of Goofy from Disney. So this is what the creature looked like. Now, for me, that doesn't look scary at all. For me, the creature looks like something like a misplaced puppet from Fraggle Rock, the Sesame Street, or even the Muppets. And this is the concept idea behind the monster for this particular film and design. So I just think they missed the mark. Even if the film was boring and a bit bland, where they could have won with this movie is the actual monster itself. And you don't get much screen time with the monster. They do try to focus on the relationship with the two boys, the two twin brothers. But there's just, for me, apart from Joseph and them trying the very best, there is still a slight issue with the chemistry there. But the actors just did the very fine best with the material they had. But the monsters alone is what, I was building myself up for to finally see in full view. And I had some interesting ideas with the monsters. So whenever the monsters left an area or near an area, you saw like giant cockroaches. Like when Paul, the dad, Nicolas Cage, goes to repair the door after the first initial attack, he's pulling back the panels and there's hundreds of large cockroaches behind the doors. So part of me was thinking when we finally get the reveal of the monsters, is there going to be some sort of giant mutated cockroach or insect type creature? But no, we got this fluffy dog, emu, fucking ostrich type thing that chatters. It goes, does this freaking stupid noise, which for me isn't scary at all. It could have been scary if the design of the monster himself was scary. And they definitely took inspiration from another movie called Critters when it comes to these films, because there is a scene near the end of the movie where they all pile up together and they're just this giant ball of fluff that's on fire after the farmhouse has exploded, and they're chasing down the family as they're trying to escape. And even that scene didn't save this movie. So unfortunately for Arcadian, it's got more negatives than positive, which the majority, I guess, not all, but the majority of these cash grab movies are never as, satisfying or as fun as, the film that they're trying to duplicate. But there are some winners out there, and unfortunately Arcadian is not one of them. So for me, Arcadian had an interesting plot. They could have done so much with it, but it just falls flat. It's very boring, very, mediocre in terms of what they could have done with it. It had a lot of potential. Nicolas Cage, like I say, is in this for a quick cash grab. It's a quick cash grab movie. Like I say, the shining light for me is the character of Joseph, who's played by Jaeden Martell, who he did his very best in this, and unfortunately they fell flat with the monster action and the monster look. And you don't even get a backstory in this about how this whole thing happened. Where did the monsters come from? Are they from outer space? Are they some sort of mutant? Are they some sort of undiscovered species? Or were they formed in a laboratory? We don't know. So that's another mystery that's never solved. And like I say, there is some decent scenes with the monsters, but they fall flat because of the monster design and because of also the darkness in the shots. Like Mrs. Rose, for example, she meets a brutal, uncomfortable, kind of weird death at the hands of one of the monsters who's hovering hovering above her, and something comes flying out the bottom end of the monster and basically lands on top of her. And you don't see the kill, but you can, just the look of what happened, it was quite uncomfortable. So that's probably the only best part featuring the creatures, the monsters within this film. Apart from that, unfortunately, this is a very disappointing movie for me. The movie poster makes this thing look fantastic. The trailer for this made this look really interesting and a fun watch, but the film just falls flat for me. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to rate this quite low, and I'm going to rate this, unfortunately, a 4 out of 10, which is probably the lowest rating I've given a film on this channel. But I have to be true to myself and true to the fact that this had so much potential, despite being a cash grab movie. And anything that they had that possibly could have won this movie over, I just feel as if was a letdown. The monster designs, the story could have been well fleshed out better. The performances are okay, but you can tell Nicolas Cage is just in this for a quick buck. And like I say, the shining light is Jaeden Martell as Joseph. But yeah, Arcadian 4 out of 10, unfortunately. If you do want to check this out for yourself, it'll be available somewhere on streaming, on digital. If you're in the UK, it's this week premiered on Sky Premiere. It was on Saturday, it was on yesterday, and I'm sure if you look throughout the channels, you'll probably see it available again this week somewhere to watch. But that's just my opinion. That's just how I feel about this movie. What's your opinion if you have seen Arcadian? Did you enjoy the movie? Did you not enjoy the movie? Let me know. But, you know, a movie I do recommend with Nicolas Cage is Longlegs. I really enjoyed him in that. I even enjoyed him in Renfield, which came out earlier this year, where he plays Dracula. He was fun in that. He is a fine actor, and like you say, he's got some great, you know, movies out there, both independent and big budget movies. You just have to, you know, I guess, shuffle through the shit to find the ones that you like. But until then, until the next one, keep enjoying your movies, keep on enjoying your television, keep on enjoying all things entertainment. And I'll catch you all at the next one.